Engagement is a modern-day buzzword. Professional services firms are spending countless hours and resources to create content, promote them, and measure the engagement generated through them. But to really measure engagement, you need to get rid of the various misconceptions surrounding this buzzword engagement and understand what engagement really is. It's critical to align context with it. Without the element of context around the business goals and what is important for users and how users would want to interact with the brand online, we will never be able to measure true engagement. Communication has truly evolved and is rapidly transforming in the modern-day business world. Today, professional services firms communicate with their audiences in numerous ways, and all this is not happening instantaneously. It kind of look like this. A user begins the conversation by coming to the website. We get information about what they like or presumably about what they like. Then based on that information, we create more information that they might like. Then the user reads the new information. Then we tell whether they like it or not. And then we begin the conversation funnel all over again. We attempt to get as personal as possible, but this conversation cycle may take days, weeks, or months, depending upon how we actually measure those cycles. And this is not an instantaneous cycle. It creates a feedback loop via their behavior within the digital world, and it generates a lot of information. We are actually generating a large set of data, but all data is not important. We as marketers need to know a smaller chunk of this information, which is important to us, and this smaller chunk of data might not be relevant to other departments. So basically, what we need to measure is outcomes. So instead of using the buzzword engagement, we need to call it outcomes. We need to measure outcomes based on what we think is important to our business. We need to define what those outcomes are. Once we define what the various outcomes are with respect to various digital channels like the website, email, social, etc., we need to segment them. We need to define our outcomes in a more segmented way. For example, we need to define what your website needs to be for your sales team and what you want your website to do for your individual practice areas and for your service offering teams. Once you define the outcomes and have segmented them as per your business divisions with respect to your digital channel, then we need to create individual metrics with respect to acquisition, behavioral, and outcome standpoint. As shown in the slide, we need to measure which email campaign brought about how many unique visitors to a particular web page. This is from an acquisition standpoint. Then we have metrics on behavioral attributes in terms of repeat visitors and bounce rates. And also, most important is outcomes. What is the recency of returning visits and how large was the social amplification? Now, once we have the metrics in place, we need to understand the contextual positioning of the metrics we have picked, which means the highs and lows of content consumption or the degree of content consumption. To do this, we need to calculate the averages, the minimums and maximums of the data that we have, and then compare the data with respect to the parameters like time period, shares, etc. This essentially measures the impact with regards to benchmarks. To summarize, when we talk about engagement, we are actually talking about outcomes. For example, what do you want your website to do? We need to define that. Then we need to define that in a segmented way. Define what the website should do for individual business divisions like sales, service offerings, practice teams, etc., and come up with the individual metrics that are relevant to them. Finally, after you have segmented them, contextualize them. Create an average version of them and compare and find out positive or negative impact. To learn more and to get a detailed illustration of the same, get the complete recording of the webcast on our website www.edynamic.net. Thank you.